We started with 2,800, 2,900 cuts.
So the 1,000 was the second round that we brought it down, right?
We brought it down to 1,000. We make people sound like, oh, they have no errors at all.
I know. I actually should have said that in the intro. The whole point of this podcast is to talk about how we craft those experiences, and I just completely forgot.
Our consumer is someone who wants information fast-paced. As soon as I uploaded, the first message probably I put in the group or something. Please tell the editors not to curse me after seeing the number.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the It's Rendering podcast. And today, I think we've got a special one because it's with a special person. I don't know how to introduce you really because I don't know, mix engineer, audio lord, Cyril.
Mix engineer would do, but yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast, sir.
No, it's not my podcast, man. It's our podcast.
It's our podcast.
But in all seriousness, like you've kind of elevated the way that the audio game works at NEM, and so I think we should have a good discussion and a good conversation flow, like with talking about. I think we'll try and avoid getting technical, but I just wanted like your perspective on how things started, because I think we started off getting you on board when we were like, oh, we don't really have enough hands or enough experts to manage the podcast that we're working on and stuff. And I think TNB was the first one that you started working with us with.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I started with TNB.
Yeah, and I remember, I don't know how it was for you, but I remember there was a lot of back and forth trying to get the sound right, especially for a certain someone.
Yeah, shall remain unnamed, but yeah. It was actually, I started with TNB, and one of the most challenging ones, because first of all, this was my first podcast edit. Like, I had worked on documentaries, I had worked on short films, etc., but podcast this was first for me. And we have a different route in terms of editing style, if you may. Now we can get to that later, but we have a different way of going about the edit, right? So
I think we're the only ones who do it that way also, because all of us have scoured forums and got in touch with support, and no one seems to even understand the way that we do it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, but anyway, yeah.
We, if you look at it in a way, although it's work, but the result of it is fabulous. Like, it's kind of like flawless. We make people sound like, oh, they have no errors at all.
So, I mean, they don't believe they can sound that way. Right? They come back to us and be like, oh, we actually really like this. Can we please? And we've had discussions where we've not even had to pitch, because people have already liked the way that you do it. I don't think I should say we in this case, but I mean collective, yes, but just the audio stuff, and then they'll be like, oh, can you do that for us, kind of. So. Yeah, I think it's worth it. It's a difficult process, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I remember. So Aryan is the one who took me through the whole workflow. So like, he was the one who gave me, like, he's the one who contacted me. I mean, we had not connected. We had connected after the first episode was done, or we were like, yeah, okay, this works. And that's when you were like, okay, this guy I think he can manage. It's okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it's very difficult to know, especially when you're working remotely. Right? It's very difficult to know who someone is, and everyone just claims that they can move the world, and then finally it's like, nah, it doesn't work that way.
Seen a lot of people doing that now.
Yeah. So I think Aryan, he did have to convince me a little initially, because I was like, I don't know who this is, and I mean, no offense to the background that you both shared, but it didn't give me a lot of confidence, right? And so after the first episode, I was, like I said, like, yeah, this guy can get it done. That was essentially it.
Yeah. So like, for the first episode, once Aryan just took me through what needs to be removed. That was our discussion. That is one of the editing style, if you may, that we follow. So he told me what we should remove, etc. He just took me through one of his sessions that he had edited. That made me think like, oh wow, we can actually do this. But I was still not thinking about what happens to the video. I was like, oh, okay, this is damn cool. It is tedious for sure. It's like 1 hour we have to continuously cut off all the errors, right? the number of cuts that we have. That is
I
another
think per
story.
episode, what was it, like a thousand something cuts per episode or something like that, right? And not even an hour long episode. It was like shorter 30, 40 minute episodes have like 1,000 odd
We
cuts.
started with 2,800, 2,900 cuts.
So the 1,000 was the second round that we brought it down,
Yeah,
right?
we brought it down to 1,000.
Right.
And then after I was done with the first episode, like after cutting, etc., I think we had taken around what 2 days or something. And then I that's when Aryan told me now we have to take export of individual files. Till then, you don't know how many cuts you have made. Now you see the session, it's like cut, 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 cut. It's like properly there.
Yeah, we should actually have one of those sessions like overlaid on screen right now for people to see.
That's when I selected all the files and put it for export. And then when I checked that folder and when it showed 2,800 cuts, I was like, there is something terribly wrong here. I guess I'm going to have to do this episode the whole thing again one more time. Like as soon as I uploaded, the first message probably I put in the group or something, or I passed through Aryan was, please tell the editors not to curse me after seeing the number.
Uh, yeah, we'll tie into that later because like it's the audio edit first for us, and then we work on the video because we're trying to figure out like content wise. Okay, it's not just how it sounds, right? It's also like, okay, does this work in this place? And maybe there's a point that was spoken about here which they've kind of just jumped to, because we don't want to, like, when we're recording, you don't want to break the flow. But then that's your job as the editor, and then it's like all of the ums and buts and ahs and all of that. Yeah, you have to remove all of that, and then the editor, poor chap, is going to be up all night. Be like,
Where do I find this clip from? What has this man done? Can't you just leave that word
oh,
there? Yeah.
yeah,
But I was just thinking, like, why we do that, and that is where we can justify our edit really, who we are editing for and who's gonna consume that. When we had a discussion on that, our I'm not gonna name the podcast, neither am I gonna say anything, but our consumer is someone who wants information fast paced. He has no time for jazz. He has no time for anything like any chit chat, blabber, all of that. He has no time for it. He wants information straight. That's why he's there. He, she, anybody, they are there, and they just need it. So when we add the regular podcast, the unedited, when you look at the unedited one, there is a lot of gaps. There are instances where there are a lot of repeats, like the 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 main host has asked a question, the guest has answered, this whole answer is being repeated by the host again. Those situations are there, right? And all of so in you go into the unedited way, what's going to happen? You're going to continuously going to keep listening to the things that you don't want to hear, or you're going to hear things which has already been covered, all of that,
yeah.
so many errors, etc., etc. So then that's when we started justifying our edit. We're like, yeah, we are giving them what they need to hear, exactly what they need to hear.
Yeah, we've kind of done this test also, right? Like with the unedited versus the edited version as well.
Yeah.
And they just don't like the unedited one. It's just like, no, what are you giving me? Like, stay away. I don't even want to see this kind of. But that's part of the process for us, right? Like it's our job to make that happen for people, for them not. And I think most of the time people don't even realize that, oh, this is what's gone on behind the scenes. Like no one's going to actually sit and count the number of cuts that are being made.
It is exactly creating experience, like what we do here, right? We are creating.
I know. I actually should have said that in the intro. The whole point of this podcast is to talk about how we craft those experiences, and I just completely forgot. Sorry, poor user experience right there. But anyway, yeah, you were walking us through the process part of it, and it is justified, right? It's at the end of the day the end result, and people have spoken about this and actually pointed that out, that it's easy to listen to. It's something that doesn't waste their time. And I guess that's why we have a certain number of dedicated fans who consider this the top podcast for them. Thank you, Spotify Wrapped.
Thank you so much. 2023 has been great.
Yeah. What was it like for you when you found out the actual video side of it?
Oh man, I was like, after I sent the number of files, that's when it started hitting me. I even asked Aryan multiple times, dude, are you sure everything is right? Because the number of files are like just 2,800 files. Are you for real? How like then I started trying. Then I was like trying to understand how is the video editor going to merge these clips? Like, where is he literally going to sit and oh god, one clip, one clip? What is the process going to be? I kept asking Aryan, how's it going? What are they doing? Do they have any problems? Do you want me to edit this thing again? He was like, no, everything is okay. And when the first episode aired, that's when I could see the episode. Right, till then I was not able to. I was still not part of the
Was it one
team.
of the live ones or the online ones? Do you remember?
The first one is not the online one.
Online.
It's the
The
yeah,
live,
live
yeah,
ones,
in person.
in
Yeah, yeah.
person recordings. So that's when I saw that for the first time. And I think the first episode I did, he was not using his face. I mean, I don't know if I should. Yeah, we can say this.
Yeah, that's fair. It's
Go,
out there. I mean, it's out
go
there.
figure out which one this
Yeah,
is.
go figure out. We've got multiple people who haven't used their face. Go figure it out.
Yeah, he was using. That was not an NFT though. I don't know what that is.
No, it was an NFT. We kind of animated it on there.
Oh, really?
That was the whole process in and of itself. Yeah, we won't get
Oh,
into that now.
okay. That's what
We
somebody else.
see part of the experience. See, you don't need to know that it was an NFT. We just did. We just made
Oh,
it work.
crazy. See, now, see, even I got this experience now. Even I did not know about this. Crafting thoughtful experiences for us also. Yeah.
It's part of the fun, man. But yeah, so
Yeah.
that
So,
was like, yeah. Sorry.
so that's when I saw the video first. And then when I saw the video, that's when I realized, like, oh man, he has worked his ass off. This is like, it's like spot on because everything synced. Then I got too curious. Now I have to know what have you done. This cannot be practical that you have done one by one. And that's when I think Aryan just showed me like there is a process what they do and that's how it
Yeah.
gets synced. The only issue that I had was like when you hear it, when you hear the podcast from Spotify, it was like seamless. This guy can talk without stutter. Wow, he does. I mean, that was my first edit, and I remember, I know I made those mistakes when I heard it back. I don't know if you guys noticed. He's not. No, a lot of places he's not even taking a breath. He's not even taking a breather. He's like continue. He's on it. He's on it for a long stretch. That's when I realized, like, okay, human being, not a robot. Let him breathe. Let him breathe at some places. From second episode, that got sorted. But then, yeah, when I was seeing the video, that's when I was like, man, this is that's some work. That's some work that has gone behind.
I think we had a discussion on this as well, right? I think we went this route. We were trying to figure out like, okay, does it make a difference with the video? Like, do the audiences actually not like this? Because we have this experience otherwise where people are like, oh no, where there's so many cuts, people don't like it. But then people are used to it now. Like, I mean, on one hand, any online call stutters some way or the other. It's never like perfectly seamless.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we're used to seeing content that is, heavily edited and very fast paced because that's the way that we used to consuming content as well today, right?
Right.
And I think that was where we were trying to get this from as well. It's like, okay, people are used to this 2-3 second, engagement time, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And how do we translate that into the YouTube experience for people and get our engagement rate up or retention rather per video? And so it's tedious, and I think now we've gotten to another process which is a little less so. At that time, there
600.
was a lot of yeah, but not just the cut side. At that time, the way that we were doing it previously was there was a lot of manual cutting involved. Now there's slightly like there's one extra step, but it kind of takes care of the manual cuts part of it.
Yeah.
But we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what works because we didn't just jump. And even when you were going from whatever 2,000 cuts to 600 cuts, you didn't just do that in one episode, right? I think we did that over the course of a few episodes.
Yeah.
I think we also don't want people to just jump in and be like, oh, what am I listening to? Like, oh, we've lost the identity. That's not what we want either, right?
Right. Like over time, actually, it's more than just us growing, right? Even the people we work with started growing. If you notice, there is actually a difference between, I won't name the host, but he has actually developed the way he needs to conduct that. Compared
Mm.
to our initial episodes where he used to make a lot of errors, he used to stop a lot, etc., etc. Coming to now, where now that he's hosting, it's like he's also spot on. And then we get guests also, which are like quite spot on. Like again, I can't name the guests, but there were certain episodes where, I mean, I barely had to do anything. It was so beautifully paced, like that. I didn't even have to touch the pacing, leave alone the errors. Like even if he makes errors, I would like, yeah, let it be. He's human after all. Let it be. Let this be there. Because I don't want to touch this. The pacing is beautiful. So pacing, that is something which matters for our audience as well.
Yeah, and this is also related to pacing, but I wanted to bring it back to what you said earlier about, sometimes the guest might repeat what the host says, or the host might repeat what the guest says, which kind of breaks that flow because you're already used to getting like, one after the other, and this flow of conversations. And that's why the podcast, I think, medium works so well. It's so easygoing, it's free flowing as well. It's not like, it's one of those interviews, like a news style interview kind of, where it's like just this, okay, I'm going to ask the questions, you're going to kind of speak after that. And that took us some time to get used to as well. Like we used to go through these things where we used to put docs together and kind of mark points and be like, hey, you did a really good job over here, but then you come down here, this could have been better. And then actually recording those things, notes, and then sending it across, and then on our weekly sync calls, which you handle nowadays, thank you very much. But it's not just training the others or training the partners, let's call them partners that we work with. It's also training ourselves to understand how people listen to it, and also getting feedback right from people. Otherwise, you're always in your own little bubble. And I think you said this was the first podcast and stuff that you were editing, but then you kind of went not just from the perspective, okay, I need to remove stuff, but also went to the perspective, okay, how do we make this a better experience overall,
Yeah.
right? Not just segments, right? So I think that was also a process for you to go through, right?
For sure. Like this is actually this is proper growth, not just
Mm.
for me as an editor, or even just us as service providers or our agency, right? It's not just
Mm.
for us. Even our clients, even they grew so much. Look at the episodes we did last December. Let's say, so we start. Maybe I think we start publishing from later, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, look at the first episodes and look where we are now. Like there is change. It's not just for us. We as editors, we have also changed a lot in terms of style. Um, Even their speaking style is different. Now they know what all other challenges that we have. Okay, something
Right.
like this happens, retake. We know, okay, we pause here, we can retake here. It's not like, yeah, yeah,
We did that 5 years
yeah,
back.
yeah, they'll fix it in post. They'll do something. Some magic will happen. And if it doesn't happen, hey, you don't know how to do your work. All that. No, they understand. They have
Mm.
learned that along with us, and we have also grown so much from there. So that is the fun part. That is
Mm.
actually the fun part. That is actually the happy part for any client relations actually. Like if they also grow along with you and they understand, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
uh, this is the process, we need to follow this process to get the right results. If we don't do
Yeah.
it, it's not like it can be fixed in post, here, do it's now you're ready. It's not like that. Even they understand. That's
Yeah.
great. That's the space that everybody should aim to be at, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you need both sides there, right? It's our job to be patient enough to be transparent,
Yeah.
because very often sometimes you don't want to be transparent with the client, like, I know what I'm doing, just trust
Yeah.
me, kind of.
Yeah.
Trust me, bro, doesn't work
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
And then sometimes from the client side of things also, it's like, dude, why aren't you doing a job? Like, this is what I want. But then if both sides come to this mutual understanding, like, okay, don't just look at the output, also look at the process, figure out how you're going to get there eventually. That really helps, right? And it's mutual growth in that case. It's not just one side. It's not just a professional relationship. When I say professional, I don't mean that we are unprofessional. I mean more in terms of like, okay, it's not like, okay, I've paid you for something, I've got a deliverable, and that's it. And that's why, like, I mean, now most of our calls with them, when we are like talking to them, we are spending most of the time just checking up on one another rather than actually talking about work,
Yeah.
and laughing, or just be like, oh, how is it, like, how's it going, kind of figuring out life together. Because at this point we trust one another, we trust that we are doing the best that we can, we're giving the best that we can, and when we come to a point where there is an impasse, we figure out a solution, we don't just get stuck, right? And
For sure.
to that point, like, we have to be open to growing, and part of being open to growing is also part being open to learning, right? If you're not open to learning and being like, okay, I know everything, well, then you're going to be where you are.
That outside perspective is very important. That just completely opens so many doors if you welcome it. If you
Yeah.
like how you said, if you be like, hey, I am the expert here, you're taking my service, listen to what I'm saying. Sorry, you're not gonna make it. There you will
Yeah.
find so many advices which, I mean, you must have not thought about it because it might have been like, hey, it's too simple. This can't be right. I mean, it has to be something complex. The solution has to be something complex. And the client will
Yeah.
just come and tell you, why don't you just do this? You'll be like, no, no, it doesn't work that way. And then you go silently, you go, just try it. And then you're like, oh, okay, that actually works. So you really need to
Yeah.
welcome these. Um, I mean, you will definitely find a lot of beep bullshitters, but but you will also come across so many people who will actually open so many doors in your heads which you have
Mm.
closed purposely because you think that you are something.
You are God,
Yeah, yeah.
or your Lord. But yeah, I mean, that just reminded me of a call I had earlier today with a client who shall again remain unnamed. But it came down to like, okay, I'm the owner, I'm the one paying you. Why can't I have it this way? And I was like, okay, let me walk you through the process.
Yeah.
Let me walk you through what we want out of this, and then you'll understand that what you are actually asking for doesn't fit in with that. Because very often, like even from our perspective as an agency, it's like, okay, we understand our tools, we are experts at whatever we do, kind of. We sometimes lose sight of, as you said, like understanding who we're doing it for.
Yeah.
It's not just the person who's paying us, right? Yes, we're doing it for them, but it's more so for the audience, right? Like what, like, and you've been saying this right from the beginning, like, okay, they are used to getting information very like upfront without having to wait for it too much, and they don't have time, those kind of things. We often forget that, and sometimes I think that happens on both sides. It's not just one side of it. But at least for us, like, that's also where we've grown. We've grown to understand our audience a lot better now, and grown to understand how to engage with them better from behind the scenes. Like, we would never meet them in person. We probably don't even reply to a comment other than the social media manager doing it, like you and I. But we understand our audience in a way that we didn't before, like in a way that we didn't even understand them 6 months before,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
for sure. This is something that we discussed also about our audience. Remember, we had discussions where we were actually thinking about how and when our audience is actually consuming this podcast,
Hmm.
and that's when we slowly started realizing why the edit should be a certain way and
Right.
not the just leave these errors there kind of a way. That's when we
Yeah.
actually could like be like, yeah, this is how we should take. So that understanding your consumer is definitely one of the biggest game changers you can ever have. Completely changes the entire perspective. Even like changing genres in terms of podcasts, like the types of podcasts. For example, having a comedy podcast versus having a very technical or development based podcast,
Hmm.
there can be a drastic difference in consumption of that, these two different things. A comedy based genre podcast, people would just maybe have some food in front of them. They'll just like just eat some popcorn and watch it. They'll go through the entire thing. I may go through it on 1.5 or 2x speed, but but uh, you,
Don't attack me, bro.
you can you can also go at 1x, but yeah. So a comedy podcast can be consumed that way, but
Hmm.
that's not how you would, or the person who wants to hear the technical podcast would want to consume. He's not gonna
Hmm.
probably, and that's what we analyzed, that's what we saw. When are these people actually consuming this? That they're consuming this when they're traveling, mostly when they're in transit somewhere, or when they're just waiting for something. They just have their earphones on or something, and they have just kept the podcast on. They are doing their thing, or they are working on something, etc.,
Hmm.
etc. That's when our consumers are listening to this. So
Right.
then it is important to understand what sort of edit style to take. That's where the
Right.
difference comes. And understanding your consumer mix, that is the game changer.
I know we can go like a lot into the edit style, but we were discussing this just before we actually started recording. Was it ties into what you said about understanding the consumer. Like you can have different kinds of podcasts, right? It's not just genre. It's also like, is it audio first? Is it video first? What's more important? And although for us, like video is more important for like a couple of podcasts, maybe there are some podcasts where we don't even have video. We just have audio. So then you would edit that very differently versus, editing the video podcast very differently, different considerations as well,
Yeah.
right? But at the end, the outcome should be that, okay, what's the content? What's the crux of this episode that I'm editing? What message do I want to convey to the audience? What do I want them to take away from this?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And so it doesn't matter. Like there's different ways that you can get there. Like you can figure out your process, figure out how you're getting there. Because very often, like we get stuck there, right? I know we worked with a client who didn't have a video at all, and that was never even a consideration. It was just like, okay, I want to do audio. And because today there's a whole thing like, oh, I need to be on Instagram, I need to have videos and all of that, and then that kind of stops people because then they're like, oh, I don't have a camera, I don't have this, I don't have like lights and stuff. I mean, I've placed a light on top of a camera right now just to get this done, right? But we can't stop because like, okay, I don't have this, I don't have that. Like, what do you have? Just do it, kind of. You're not going to be the expert. You're not, like you said, you will grow over time, just as much as anyone else. No one's the expert and then they start. They become the expert over time, right? So
it's like
I think
you can start. Yeah, sorry, Kalyan, you were saying. Actually, I know what this point is. That's quite important.
Yeah, no, I was talking about the video that you just shared,
Yeah.
right? Where she said like, if you don't assume that I need the skill to start. Like start it, and then you'll get the skill over time.
Exactly.
So yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So there are obviously like how you said, whenever somebody starts anything for that matter, let's say a podcast. Oh, I don't have a mic. I might not sound as good. Oh, I don't have a camera. What am I? Where am I going to record this? Well, how do I do this? There'll be so many questions. Now would be the right time to call us, contact us. Natural Life.
Yeah, we will show you our links in the description.
Call us. Yeah, but today, like I mean, compared to what it was before COVID, after post COVID, times have like changed drastically, and all of us have seen that now. Like before, there was so many confusions, so many things. You need to be physically here, there. Now that all this remotely, everything has been completely possible. Not just that, there's like a huge chunk of information out there actually. That you need to start something, you can start away. There are a lot of tools that will help you to get what you probably need. Now, if I don't have a mic, doesn't mean I cannot start a podcast. I have so many tools out there which will make me sound right. Yeah, see, I don't have audio engineer. Sorry, don't have a mic.
That's why you're the audio engineer, not the recording artist. Right?
You see how I'll fix this one. Yeah. Anyway, so there are so many tools out there. So now, again, it's fine. It comes down to how serious you are about what you want to do. When you put your mind into it, then you can. There are so many solutions out there. You will definitely find anything. And if you don't, just contact us. We will sort it out for you. But
yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out for you. We can, because now that's why we can confidently say we can, is because we actually can. We have dealt with so many. We are not on a daily basis. We are doing podcasts. We're not actually handling people who are having top-notch setup, or someone who has like a solid treated room and a really good mic. And
yeah, we're not working with Joe Rogan and Lex Friedman.
We're not. We're actually working with setups like probably we are having. We definitely get better setups.
Where the laptop is on your lap, and you can hear the fan sound and all of these things.
There's somebody in your room will take the backside view of what we are actually seeing. There'll be so many cables, so many camera holding light, all those supports, etc. But it will work. It does work. We can make it work. You can also make it work. There are so many things which will help you get to that particular quality. Nothing is going to stop you. You can. That's what I was getting to. So if you put your mind to it, you can definitely get to it. If you don't, of course.
On that note, I think we'll have to get you to write a blog post with some of these tools. Like, okay, you don't have a great mic. Figure this out, or learn this skill to make yourself sound better.
Right.
But I think we can sort of, I know we are at time as well, but what you said about, if you don't have good audio, don't let it stop you. There's a lot of tools, especially post-COVID, what you said, like there's so much information available out there. So obviously you can get to us, and I know we want to work. We're working on, I don't know whether I should say this, we can cut it out later, but we're working on like something like the producer's manual, for example. So stuff like that. Like there are resources out there. There is stuff that there are people that you can reach out to. And obviously, if you're a new brand that is starting out, like don't be intimidated by it. I mean, we've been intimidated by starting with this for such a long time, and then now we're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? People don't listen to it. People don't like it. Okay, cool. We've learned something. That's all.
That's
right.
Our next episode, we'll come with a banger. That's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Or pivot entirely. No. We'll keep this going as long as we can. Yeah. We'll just get others to join in the conversation as well, and we'll figure it out. Like it's part of the learning process. It's part of it. We don't claim to be experts in hosting the podcast ourselves or being guests on the podcast or whatever. We'll figure it out. It's fine.
For sure.
Yeah. So thanks, Cyril. I know there were a lot of other things we wanted to cover as well, but we will have a part 2 at some point.
For sure.
So subscribe to National Media. I think that's where we are going to post this. We'll see. It's rendering. Essentially, just follow the podcast and follow our socials. And yeah, if you're a brand who needs help or just needs a consultant somewhere along the way, reach out. We've got you. So yeah, if you felt this was helpful, like, share, subscribe, and I think we'll also post shorts from this, like good tidbits, and also share follow our blog as well, because we'll be sharing stuff there too, and all of these things. So yeah, hope thanks for tuning in, everyone. Thanks, Cyril. I mean, I know I spoke a little too more than I was supposed to, but thank you.
Thank you so much.